Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Jeff Arnott, and today we're going to talk about today's workforce preparation for the adult education classroom. Yes, your classroom. And these skills will work in any adult ed classroom from ESL to GED prep or ABE, even IET. So we're really excited about this. And of course, this a webinar is being put on by the Institute for Professional Development of Adult Educators, also known as IPDN, proud partnership with the Florida Department of Education. My name is Dr. Jeff Arnott. I am an IPDA subject matter expert. Some of you might remember my days when I was a director down in the Florida Keys, also Brevard County, and I finished my career in Osceola County. Um, and I can honestly say that these skills will work in a large program, medium-sized program, or small program. So I'm very happy to say that I've served in all three, and I'm here to help you out today. Since then, I've retired and I still help out IPDA whenever I can. And there's my email address, of course, if you have any questions, which will be at the end as well. Also, a couple things to remember. If you do have a question, please type it in the question and answers option, which you can see right there. Also, attendees' microphones will be muted and you will be in listen only mode. Also, today's presentation is being recorded and it will be archived and available on the IPDA website within 48 hours. Well, here's the overview of what we're going to talk about. And this one here really hits home. I remember when I first came into a program when some teachers came to me and some students came to me and said they needed some magazines. I'm thinking like, well, where are you going to find them? In fact, students were even saying they were having a tough time finding magazines to cut out pictures to make these presentations for the class itself. And it was an ESL classroom. And immediately I was thinking, well, why can't we have the adult ESL students make PowerPoint presentations and present their work? And we graded that away. Well, after a little conversation and so forth, we decided that that would be the best way to do it. And not only that, it taught these students the workforce skills that they'll probably need and save them time and money, not trying to find magazines to cut out. Plus, at the end of the day, when's the last time at your workplace that you've done a presentation by cutting out pictures in a magazine and bringing it to work? Probably never. But anyway, this all talks about doing exactly what we talked about, incorporating these workforce skills into your everyday lessons, and it can easily be done. In fact, we'll talk about what soft skills employers expect, creating a workplace rich classroom culture, easy classroom activities. In fact, the handbook that will be coming with this has lesson plans already there that I've helped create. And building relationships with partners, I think that's key. And of course, we'll talk about the important takeaways at the very end. Here's what soft skills employers expect. In fact, this comes from the U.S. Department of Chamber and the U.S. Department of Chamber. They call it the Big Six, and these are the Big Six. They have the Big Six, and they also have the Big 12. But these were the top ones: communication, teamwork, adaptability, problem solving, professionalism, and attendance. I remember about 10 years ago when the whole idea of, employers were really coming to us to talk about soft skills. They'd always talk about showing up to work on time and attendance, and that was the big one. It's evolved to more than that today. So employers not only expect that attendance and people showing up to work on time, but they're also expecting these particular things as well. Basically, they want students to be working on day one. What workforce prep really means today. It's We'll start with digital confidence, communication, reliability is the new baseline. Basically, students should be able to come in and operate a computer, should be able to answer emails, and also communicate effectively on those emails, not just text messaging or use text message language in an email. It's not just job training; it's building the habits that make people employable, and you can easily do that in your adult education classroom. Easily can be done. Adult learners need repeated practice completing tasks employers expect. That is true. I remember, I think we all remember the first email we sent, the first website we checked out, all those things. Those were skills we had to build over time. And all learners, regardless of age, will need those skills. And they may be in different places. For instance, a younger generation may be more digitally active. However, they may not know how to use those digital tools correctly or effectively. So I think it's our job to really help those students out. And in addition, we can embed it right while we're in teaching. The goal is straight up and it's simple, helping learners, adult learners, walk into a job and be able to function on day one. I think if we were all employers, and I've been an employer, you do want that. You want people to be able to do something on the very first day of work with some simple training. Why workforce prep matters in adult education. In Florida, especially, employers consistently report there's gaps in digital literacy, communication, and dependability. You know, that dependability, I think, was the big one not too long ago, but the digital literacy and communication seems to be a big one. Communication means anything from selling something, keeping customers happy, keeping customers coming back. That's a skill that I've heard quite a bit. And digital literacy, anywhere it's that's just kind of taking over, especially with some of these new AI tools and everything. I think we got to show students the proper cyber activities and what it means to use digital literacy. And it's actually becoming a focus of the federal government. That's actually starting to roll out here very shortly. You're going to hear some stuff in Congress coming out about some of the digital literacy initiatives with even within adult ed itself. Um, and what's one thing about adult education that I love? It's very flexible and very portable. You can start a class anytime. The standards are there, but you can actually embed a lot of these things right into the job itself. And one thing about adult ed that I like, people do have a lot of different experiences in your classroom, and the students can help each other out a lot of times, especially in those adult ESL classes. You know, what have they learned somewhere else that they can bring in and teach others? I think that's just a valuable thing that you won't catch in an 11th grade history class at your normal high school. Workforce prep isn't just an add-on, and we really got to get out of that mode that it's somebody else's job to do it. Where the career counselor, by the way, use your career counselors to maybe co-teach and everything. These items could also be good, but don't just expect it to be an extra lesson or something that's added on. It needs to be an essential part of helping learners achieve employment, promotion, and career stability. So basically, learning these skills while they're learning their ABCs and one, two, threes is pretty much essential. What employers need today, this is what the Florida Chamber of Commerce and others have said, a basic to intermediate digital competency. And I'd say basic would be simple emails, is about as basic as you can get. But I think even working some of these Microsoft tools, spreadsheets, Word, and now you have all these AI tools, you have Canva, you have all these digital tools. It's getting more and more complex as we go. Good news is these things are getting easier to use, but still manage them. And also, and when you have more options, you got to show students what to use in certain situations as well. Ability to work independently and manage time. Not only working independently, and you'll see down at the bottom about teamwork as well. They got to be able to work independently and in teams, and also able to manage their time. Sometimes that's tough, and I know life gets in the way, especially with adult learners. Um, you know, having to do that is sometimes a challenge, even for the biggest pros. But that's something we really need to show students. And you can show students how to work independently when they're doing their work, managing their time. I need this by this time tomorrow, little things like that. Also, clear communication, written and verbal. I think you got to do both. Not only think, you need to do both. Also, professionalism and reliability. And that can be, and of course, that term, that's where you really want to build your relationships with your local employers and your local partners. Those words mean different to different people. You know, the idea of professionalism at Chase Bank might be different than at Publix, when it comes to dress and the way you communicate with employees. So you really want to learn what they are, so you can help your students prepare for that type of work. Uh, Also, to learn new technology quickly. The reason is because technology is coming around quickly, basically to stay right on top of it. And teamwork and problem solving under pressure. Um, I'll let you all determine what that is in your classroom under pressure, but they're all teachable inside the any classroom, especially in an adult education classroom itself. Why do digital skills drive every other skill? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. Even thinking my time when I first started teaching in 1991, we didn't have electronic grade books. Attendance was taken on a piece of paper, kind of like this, and you stuck it out on the door, and somebody came out and picked it up. And grades were done on bubble sheets, and that was new. Yeah, that you turned in, and took it down to the office and everything. So yeah, navigating your job requires digital tools. A buddy of mine's a cop. He remember had to handwrite tickets. Now they just put in the driver's license and do a few things. It's even become automatic. So everything is becoming electronic. It's making life easier, but you have to learn how to navigate them and at least navigate one digital system. I think if you have good practice in doing one, doing the others becomes a whole lot easier. Entry level work completes online forms. Even if you're working in a restaurant, the orders are taken electronically now, and of course communicating digitally, and it has to be more than just communicating by text message. Digital literacy itself does support all the academic things that we're doing. It supports reading, writing, and of course problem solving. Students who avoid technology fall behind in both class and employment. And because technology does bring a little speed. Like I said, I'm also aging myself too. I remember when we had to use the typewriter at the University of Florida instead of the word processor. Remember my senior year, you were able to use word processors in order to turn in work. You talk about just a it was like a revolution day. It really made life a lot easier. If you made a mistake, you didn't have to go back and try to fix it. So if I'd have stayed with the typewriter, I'd have been far behind. So I think students need to learn that technology does change and it does change quickly. Here's the new foundation. This is right here is the bottom floor that I think all students need to know or must master itself. Keyboarding, email, and file management, how to share documents, how to, download documents, how to find stuff on the internet and download it. I think that's important. And not only that, what is appropriate to download anywhere from free items to maybe items they have to pay for, understanding what's a copyright violation compared to that. Now, that's a little more upscale, but at the end of the day, they need to know that. Also, digital forms and online portals. I know I'm teaching a college class at the university down in Florida for doctoral level. All the stuff is done on online portals from the putting your material up there, the whole 9 yards. That is a pretty quick change, and took me a little time to get used to it. But nevertheless, that's what they're expecting all people going into the workforce to do today. And of course, Zoom and Teams has been around long before COVID and all that, but it's become more commonplace today, more than ever. But the virtual meeting tools, how to use Zoom, how to use Teams, or whatever the school or the employer uses, and also how to use them appropriately, especially if you're doing it from home, don't let the barking dog walking around, those type of things. I think not only just how to use them, but etiquette on using those tools itself as well. Also, AI tools responsibly. What's because AI sometimes makes mistakes. It makes a lot of mistakes. How do you use it to maybe get things set up and then refine it, make it your own word? And each employer and each school is going to have their own policy, and that's going to be one that's going to be changing quite a bit over the next couple of years. But letting students know that to stay on top of what that means the responsibility. And of course, online job applications. I think that's just going around the mall with your application, paper applications back in the day are over. Now it's everything is done online. And of course, basic cybersecurity awareness. What to download, what not to download, what might hurt your computer, and what might hurt the employer's computer system. That's one thing that we definitely want to have students have an idea about before they go out to the community and get a job. And of course, these digital tools, these tasks can be done right in your lessons themselves. Like if you have a student write a paper, maybe they upload it into a portal so you can read it. Anything like Canvas and Blackboard, some programs may be ahead of the game. So yeah, those particular things. Also, like I said, put them in there. Don't treat it like a separate lesson. With that being said, it's okay to show a student how to use Zoom, but use Zoom, independently. But the next time you introduce Zoom, maybe do it. Maybe you're teaching a lesson on it and the students are doing it at home. There's different ways to do it. Also, critical digital skills and soft skills. Um, Make sure that students have confidence in using computers, smartphones, and online systems. And smartphones is more than just checking Facebook and your X feeds and TikTok. It's also many employers use those. In fact, the guy came to my house to work on my heater the other day, and he put all the stuff onto like a smartphone app. You see the Amazon folks when they deliver something, they're taking a picture and uploading it. Delta Airlines, I'm here in Nashville, flew them out here, and the flight attendants are using it to tell people where their next flight is. So, smartphones definitely have an important place in the workplace, but also make sure that they're using it just for that. And also professional communication, teamwork, and reliability, email, file creation, saving, uploading, and digital organization. That sounds so simple, but I know I work with a lot of students myself where I have to show them how to do these particular things. And these are doctoral level students. So it sounds easy, but still each system's different. It might be a new system like Canvas compared to something else they're using. So you want to have students able to problem solve those things as much as possible. And of course, having students maybe practice with some online applications. In fact, in the handbook you're getting, there are some websites out there that you can use to actually practice with online applications for students. And of course, cybersecurity awareness, like lengthy passwords, privacy, and so forth, like that. And here's the big one. How do you embed these digital skills into your instruction? Basically, require assignments to be typed in email. I think that's one way to do it. I don't know many assignments unless it's like a classical freehand writing class where everything's written down anyway, or a basic literacy class. Most students do type their stuff today, and this is a good practice. Using online quizzes, if you have that capability, I did put some tools out there on the toolkit that actually has places that you can actually make online quizzes so students get used to using the computer, for instance. Practice virtual interviews with Zoom and Teams. This is where you use your career counselors, by the way. They can come in and help you out with that. Have students create a digital resume. And also, not only that, take it a step further, maybe help build a digital resume and put it on LinkedIn, so they have that digital platform as well where they can share their best practices down the road a little bit. Google Docs is great for sharing writing tasks, and it's something that they can keep as well. I was on my Google Doc the other day, and I had papers in there I wrote for college 6 or 7 years ago. It's like, oh, I was looking for that one. So it is a nice place where you can keep these things for a long period of time, as long as it's their personal Google account, of course. And also teach students how to upload files, rename files. I think that's a big one. I like doing that, renaming them so I can keep them coordinated, and also navigate folders and how you can keep folders, where it's easy to find this stuff in a digital form. I think the day the file cabinet's done now. Everything's done by the digital file cabinet is a good way to put it. And here's one thing. I think we've been doing this for years, teaching soft skills naturally. And I've seen teachers do this wonderfully, and they didn't even know they're doing it. Some of the things, use group activities that require collaboration, especially in the age of AI and some of these things. You can give students more complex scenarios to solve and then have them work together in a group and present it as a group out to the class itself. They learn more about workforce doing that than doing it independently. Yeah, I know the old boss one day is going to tell you, go do this and bring it to me. Yeah, that's true. But also, a lot lot of employers have people work collaboratively in teams on particular projects as well. So having both is fantastic. Build attendance. Now I know this one right here could be different from place to place, and school rules and all that kind of stuff. But here's something to consider: build attendance and punctuality expectations into classroom routines. And it doesn't have to be punitive whatsoever. It can be a reward system. If everybody shows up, give them a pizza or something. If the school will let you do that, but you can make it a positive thing to reward punctuality, and you should be rewarding this behavior. Also, role playing, customer interactions, and workplace conflicts. These are great. I used to do this when I taught intro to education classes, students and teachers. I'd have the students, somebody play the teacher, somebody play a good student, bad student, ornery student, a studious student. So the actual student teacher got practice on how to deal with all these interactions. You can do the same thing in the classroom. You can have an angry boss, mean boss, nice boss, bad customer, good customer. You set the parameter and let them go at it. And actually, it's pretty fun and entertaining. Um, you'll enjoy it. And also provide constructive feedback as a supervisor would. Tell them something good they did, tell them something they can improve on it. And that right there, so the student understands that not all criticism is bad. It's actually constructive and will help them in the future. You gotta fall down a few times before you learn how to walk, and I think that's true with the world of work, and also even with academic behavior. And practice scenario based problem solving. You give a scenario, or better yet, let the students create the scenarios with your approval, of course, and let them roll through it. It's like I said, it's funny, entertaining, and they get it. They get the idea of what it means to do those things. So basically, and also here at the bottom, I mentioned it again: celebrate professional behavior, meeting deadlines, initiatives, and reliability. Um, and yeah, I've heard it before, like, well, they don't do that in the workplace. Man, I think they do actually. If everyone meets their financial goals, or the company's making money, there's usually a party. There's usually some type of celebration or some kind of rewards given out and so forth. So yeah, creating that professional behavior can mock what they're doing in the business world and the private world. And creating a workplace rich classroom culture. Here it is. Use workplace norms, deadlines, and teamwork and accountability. Yes, you can hold students accountable. Absolutely. So because they hold you accountable at work. So yes, you can use those things. Also give students roles like project manager or lead technician. So when you do have these students in a group, and share it around, have one student do it one time, have another one do it another time. That is the project manager. So they're kind of organizing this team. So they get that practice as well. And of course, this is the best one. This is a whole new, this would be a whole different webinar all by itself. But project-based learning type to real job tasks. Yeah, use project-based type of situations in order for the students to work them out. And of course, celebrate employability wins. That maps it out in a nice little arrow right there. Here's some individual ones I looked at for ABE and ESL that I was going through. You can easily embed these in there, like math. For instance, math in your GED or ABE math class, budgeting, schedule. I can tell you, students know money. They know what a one is, dollar is, $5 is, $10 is, and things like that. So if you put things in monetary things, I found that worked really, really, really well. I know when I worked in a career academy over in Osceola County, we're going back to the 90s. I was the math teacher, and a lot of times, and part of the automotive thing was the students had to come in and get their bills and figure out the bills, the price of the parts, the percentage that the garage makes, and so forth like that. I tell you, the kids learned more doing that than they did X plus two equals three. They understood that, and they also understood overtime calculations, the cost of inventory. If you put it into that relative thing, students usually get it. And that is a workforce type of thing that you can embed. And guess what? They're learning math. Reading, workplace memos, safety sheets, incident reports, technical writing stuff. Um, I hate to say it, but I don't think I learned any technical writing in high school or college itself. I learned that stuff when I got into the workplace. Think of the students that have those abilities now when they're out there in the workplace. So, yeah, at the end of the day, they might not be reading Shakespeare, but they're reading a safety manual and they're understanding it. So, yes, it is a good thing. Nothing against reading Shakespeare, by the way. Also, writing professional emails. Yeah, you write these. Yeah, don't get me wrong, writing papers and all that's important. You got to learn how to do it. But one way you can help students learn those skills as well, in addition to that, is professional emails, shift notes, workplace forms, short self introduction for an interview. For instance, the shift notes is great. You've documented all these things during your 8 hour shift. How can you write that into a narrative or into bullet points, so your boss or your supervisor understands exactly what you've said. I think that's a skill that can be there. ESL, workplace vocabulary for industry. I know ESL students love that. And I know there's some programs out there that I know that are commonly purchased that do have that in there. Utilize it quite a bit. Job interviews and phone skills. That's a good way. I know adult ESL students always love to have conversation type of activities. That was the number one request I've always got from adult ESL students. They wanted more of that. What a better place to do it than there. How to navigate job postings and make sure that you look at all job postings. I remember there was some standards out there a long time ago that had students navigate the newspaper for want ads. And well, that's no longer there. And actually, that standard stuck around longer than want ads in the newspaper. How to use Indeed, how to use LinkedIn, how to use all these different type of things that are out there to look for job posts themselves. Role play workplace communications. And by the way, utilize your career counselors to help you out with this. They'll be tickled pink for you to ask them to help you out with that. Workplace communications, and also with workplace communication, what a better way to bridge your relationship with your community than inviting people in from the chamber to help you out with this. I've never ever had anybody say no. They wanted to come in and talk to the students, and they want to come in to practice those skills. And sometimes student leaves with a job too at the same time. So yeah, that's a good way to do it. It's finding people to help you with this. It's not necessarily adding on to what you have to do. Also, invite students to bring real documents from home, such as pay stubs, school forms, lease notices, and work schedules. And of course, I would tell them, don't put your private information on there. Just bring the forms, so they can understand it, and you can understand as an instructor what they may have to do to help them out, and also use them for reading comprehensive vocabulary and problem solving. All these documents that they're bringing in themselves, I think that's valuable. And once again, in the toolkit, a lot of those things will be in there. Making a classroom workplace like this is, every workplace has clear routines and expectations. um, I've always tried to have clear routines and expectations in my classroom. I know you're dealing with 14, 15-year-olds when you're teaching high school, but it does help navigate what you're trying to do. And adult ed, it's a little bit easier. So, yes, having those clear rules, routines, and expectations. And it doesn't mean be to work on time, be to school on time. If they're out, maybe they email you to let you know they're out and why they're out. Can they get the work from you so they're not behind? Those type of expectations are workplace expectations. Deadlines that mimic workplace accountability. Let's have these reports done by Friday. Maybe a wiggle room of a day or two, but try to mimic that workplace accountability as much as possible. Frequent communication practice, real tools, emails, documents, timesheets, and schedules, and also regular feedback delivered like a supervisor. And by the way, here's a thing for you. It costs very little to create these things. In fact, I created a few for you already. Florida employers want these skills. And here's the top jobs in industries that are open in Florida. I researched these. These are the five things that Florida needs. Healthcare. So these are, and you'll notice there is actually a lot of crossover between these particular skills of what they want. Healthcare scheduling. Yeah, you got to be able to schedule the person for their next visit. Their shots, things like that. Documentation. I've never seen more documentation any place in my life than a hospital or a vet hospital. So, yes, documentation and, of course, customer service. In a hospital, you're dealing with people in all different situations, from having a baby to passing of a loved one. You got to deal with all those emotions. And that's where good customer service comes into play. Hospitality and tourism, like I said, customer service is there as well. But yeah, communication, because communication, you go to an airport and you're trying to help somebody navigate to find the car rental facility. How do you communicate that? Besides, yeah, just go around over there. You might tell them to turn here, turn here. Have students be very specific in like directions. I always found that to be pretty good. Adaptability and digital checkout systems. And digital checkout systems are bigger than some industries than others. But they could be anywhere from the old school clock to they go online or go on their app to check out. So, teaching those particular things. And of course, safety for construction and trades is big. It's big in all of them, by the way. But they have certifications between OSHA and NCCER, NC3, and a few things like that preach those particular things. And of course, time management. There is one industry where time is money. If a project is behind, somebody's losing money or people aren't able to benefit. So I think that is an important one there. Digital and transportation, another big one in Florida. Digital routing and form filing, and of course business administration and also project management is part of this world as well. Email, spreadsheets, virtual meetings, and the whole nine yards. If you look at all of them, regardless, they have a spot in there. Digital routing would be in all these particular things. Safety is in all of them. So if you look at these particular skills here, you will cover a lot of the industry and jobs within the Sunshine State and beyond. Easy classroom activities. Here's some more embedded workplace prep for instruction. Here we go. Turn literacy notes into workplace writing, like emails, shift notes, reports, available vocabulary by industry. And here's a secret. Law students want this anyway, so it'll be very, very, very easy. And once again, this is where you have your industry and business partners help you out. What are the hottest terms? Because these terms change too quite a bit. Healthcare and hospitality, trades and logistics themselves. And there's also industry terms that sometimes aren't commonly used by us, but they are commonly used within that particular thing, and the acronyms. I would recommend that students know the acronyms that are always used in those jobs as well. Also, bring in real life tasks like filling forms, reading safety signs, asking questions, those type of things. I think encouraging students to ask questions, especially if it is a real life task, can only be just make their skills that much better out in the workplace. Also, have students learn the employer's tools, and there's a lot of them between Zoom, professional texting, online portals, as much as you can. There was one employer that I worked with that actually let us use their software. It was more of a trial type of thing, so they didn't get private information. And it was a big employer in the area, so they can learn that particular employment tool. And that was 15 years ago. So I couldn't imagine what it's like now, but they're willing to help you out with that. And workplace conversations, interviews, phone calls, customer interactions, those things are a big thing. I know I mentioned it before, the automotive career academy that I was in, that I helped teach in. There was actually a phone there, and there was actually a student that picked up the phone and answered the questions about, hey, what's wrong with my car? I guarantee you that student learned a lot, or the students learned a lot from those practices themselves. And customer interactions, wherever possible, Yes. Also, workplace materials, memos, emails, job aids, schedules, and forms. Also, another place to put workplace prep is, talk to your career and technical education directors out there. If you don't, some people do both. Um, what employers may want to come in and talk to the students, or let the students go to their workplace to maybe shadow and everything. Those are pretty valuable skills as well. Then have the students come back into the classroom and let the students learn what they learn and what that employer absolutely needs and what they need to learn and know. I thought that was more powerful, and I give the students the accountability and the empowerment to do such, because they do listen to each other. I think make sure you do that one. Easy classroom activities. Here's a couple that which are that can easily be done. Have students write a short workplace email explaining an absence, schedule change, or task update. That's a pretty good one. The task update is something, those emails I used to get all the time. I think that's a good skill that they need to learn. Also, problem of the day scenario where students must choose the best workplace response. I think that's a good one. And you can also, build that into reading instruction and all kinds of wonderful things, or maybe around a math problem. Assign the next one here. Assign partners to complete a small digital task together, such as completing an online form or renaming or uploading a file. Students tend to learn very well off each other. I loved putting students in teams and having them work over. Yeah, it's a little louder. Yeah, sometimes it's chaos, but learning is going on. Um, that right there, the students will, and plus they tend to have different strengths. Like this student might be able to teach this student something, and this student can teach that student something. And it's just really a beautiful thing. Next one, give students a real job posting and ask them to highlight the required skills and vocabulary. That doesn't take much at all. You could go on Indeed and pull them up, a bunch of them in 15 minutes. That actually gives students that. In fact, I would take like 10 of them and put students in pairs and have them out report out what some of the highlights job skills were. That I used to teach a class at a community college as well that had something to do like that, and the students really got a lot out of it. What that job needed, what it paid. You can ask us, they'll tell you what they get paid, what the average is of the pay, what to expect. You could take that on, you could make that like a week long lesson if you really, really wanted to. Next one, run a 5-minute mock interview rotation where students practice greeting, answering each other's questions, and closing. In fact, you can even make it take it to a different level and have tell the one student, hey, come over here, be the grumpy customer or be the nice customer, be the person who has no idea what they're doing or has no idea where to go or where to get their problem solved. And that right there, I think, like I said, it's also good entertainment, but also students are definitely learning good job skills themselves. Next one, use for short video clips on YouTube or wherever. You can just Google them, and it'll pop up. Workplace scenarios, and ask the students to identify the purpose and the problem of a proposed solution. Of course, you may have to stop it before they give the solution on the video, but that right there, and students will come up with all kinds of stuff, and then you'll have to navigate a little bit. Well, which one is the best solution? We got 10 on the table. Which one's the best solution? And like I said, these are fun activities in which students are still problem solving, they're still reading, they're still writing, they're still doing math, and guess what? They'll probably pass the GED. So and also be ready for your next IET cohort. So these are activities that like I said, it don't cost you anything. Maybe just a few minutes of your time to find some examples. Here's some more. Have the students, and these are some math one here, have students complete a mini budget or a weekly schedule to strengthen their math skills. Okay. Use a short workplace video clip to ask students to identify what the worker did well and what they can improve. Once again, that have that conversation of workplace feedback, and also and prepares them for that not all feedback is negative. It's just to help you grow. Create work teams to complete small room projects, and the role of the manager, recorder, and the presenter. These work teams are, that's the way to do it. Begin class with a daily professional communication prompt, such as an email subject line, which, by the way, they need to learn as well. Phone scripts, yes, or greeting or customer greetings, yes. There's nothing better than when I go to Delta Airlines and they recognize me for being a Diamond Million Miler member. I feel special, and every customer wants to feel that way. So teaching that skill is very good. In fact, sometimes if they don't tell me that, I get a little teary eyed. So I think that will make the student employable on day one, and of course, just being nice. Use digital scavenger hunts, like find a job, save it, download the description, upload it on Google Drive. You can make that a contest, give away free Chick-fil-A burger or something. That could be a lot of fun as well. And also and by the way, use your career counselors, school counselors, and everybody else. They'll be more than happy to help you out with this. And in fact, when I was an administrator, if somebody came and asked me, I've been all excited about this one. Also, have students rewrite confusing workplace messages in a clear, professional version to strengthen communication skills. I know when I was working on my doctorate, I had this one professor. She would just say, keep reworking it. And she did it on purpose. We had worked on these teams. It was to keep repurposing and trying to re-emphasize that skill. And it worked so well. Now I can do it with no problem. So yes, have them be able to continue to reword these things to make it as strong as possible. This is a great skill, especially for adult ESL. And of course, don't forget to use digital schools tools. And remember, your school district or college probably has these for students already. And if they don't, Google has a lot of free stuff anyway. The Google Workplace, Docs, Sheets, Drives, they're a little bit different. Students need to know how to use all those particular things. I think it's important. I know Microsoft Teams has something very similar to how to do those things. So yes, definitely do it. And once they go Google, they'll they'll love it. And it's a good place to host stuff. And also, Indeed and Employ Florida has a lot of stuff in there around job openings and everything else. And there's other ones on there in the toolkit that actually gives you an idea of how much money they make. And I know the state of Florida has invested in some career guidance type of programs as well that students might be able to find some stuff. I think Zello is the name of it. That could be a big help as well. Canva for resumes, how to make them look nice and all that kind of stuff. I know that's more of a digital creation tool, but nevertheless, especially if they go in the world of social media and so forth, it might be for resumes, but also maybe for that as well. Zoom and Teams for interview practice. In fact, if you're teaching an online course, you're using them all the time. This could be a good way to do that, or hybrid type of learning, things of that nature. And also learning platforms that your program has already purchased. Now, I know some programs may not have these particular things, but Google Workplace does have a lot of stuff on there that's relevant. It's free as a whole. They have free versions that could be very helpful. But also with tech, make sure you check with your tech people as well to make sure everything's compliant and so forth. That's just a word for the wise. And speaking of remote and hybrid skill building, teach students how to join meetings professionally, use chat appropriately, the little chat thing, which I will check some of your questions here in a second. Turn in assignment digitally, manage time while working remotely, because that's a big one, especially in the world of I'm working from home now. That right there is that extra little thing they got to learn. Communicate when unavailable, which is, maybe the auto reply things of that nature. Use text messaging appropriately. And this is a big one. This is the big one. Respond to emails and phone calls quickly, appropriately, and fast as possible. Nothing more annoying, I think we all can agree, when nobody will call you back. So make sure that you do that. That keeps people very happy. Also, partnering with employers and partners, ways to engage with partners. Ask for the top. When you talk to an employer, leverage your administrator and your career guidance folks who may already have relationships with people. They'll be more than happy to do it. Ask for the top 10 required skills for their jobs. Invite HR managers and supervisors or their supervisors to your class to talk to the students. And by the way, it don't matter if it's a big company or a small company. There's something to be learned. Like I said, don't be afraid of the big folks. Don't dismiss the little folks. They all have a very valuable thing that they can contribute to your students. Schedule mock interviews with employer partners. Like they always want to come in and align your instruction, as we mentioned before about the industry words, with specifically industry needs, especially if that employer does hire a lot of people in your area itself. And fast ways to build partnerships. Start with local chambers. There is a good chance that your school district's already paid for their membership to be a part of the chamber. Go to your district or your college's point of what do they call that, the PEO, and ask them if you can go to their meetings and so forth, and they'll probably say yes. And also, don't forget about career source and workforce boards. Visit businesses and ask one question: what skills do your entry level workers need on day one? Use your advisory groups. If you have a technical college attached to you, ask if the adult ed program can come in and talk to the advisory board. They'll be more than happy to tell you what they're looking for. They always are. Trust me on that one. And share success stories to build credibility. When you do have a student that's an alumni who has a good story, who got a great job working with a local employer, even one far away, share those success stories. Have them ready on a moment's notice if you can to come in and help you promote your program and promote what you're doing. I think that right there is anytime there's student panels or students involved, it is usually the best part of the event. And that is true in this case as well. How to align your curriculum to your employer's need. Visit local employers, ask once again what skills are needed on day one, request real job descriptions to shape reading and vocabulary skills. Don't find those fake ones, get real ones. Invite supervisors, we mentioned that one. Form small advisory groups with employers. Not that you can't start it from scratch. Just ask your boss if that's okay. They'll probably say yes. And also share student success stories to build long-term relationships and review employer feedback annually if you have that capability, and update your lessons accordingly. So if you already have a funnel of these folks, ask them every year. I used to do that in Brevard County when I worked there. I'd ask them, hey, what's working, what's not working, what's working, what's not working, and we would adjust accordingly. And they're usually pretty truthful, what's working good and what's not working good. And of course, career source, they're always willing to help. The local chambers always, I can't speak enough good about the local chambers. They'll stay on current employer needs. They know who's moving into town. They know who's moving out of town. They know what jobs are coming. They got a little crystal ball. They seem to know everything that's going on. Definitely engage those folks. They're a delight to work with. I always loved working with the chambers and career source too. Also, alignment with employers and workforce, curriculum alignment with employers, build lessons around real job tasks. And that might take a little legwork, or your career counselor can help you out with that. What is that? I wouldn't know what's going on in a nuclear power plant, but if there was one down the street from me and we can build those skills in there, not only do I learn something new, but it helps the students who maybe want to look for that as a career. Incorporate employer language and expectation and the acronyms. I think that's good. Use job postings as instructional tools. We mentioned that. Validate skills with employer feedback, and keep curriculum responsive and updated annually. That's a must because their demographics change, their markets change, their people they sell to change, their mission changes. You want to stay on top of that. They move a lot faster than education does in most cases. How to measure workforce readiness. Set digital legacy milestones, and you could set those wherever you think is appropriate for your class. Track student attention and punctuality. Celebrate the successes, of course. Assess professional communication. That's something you just kind of have to hear. Monitor completion of workforce projects. Create instructor rubrics. I think that's important. Maybe get a team of teachers together to create what you all think is professional communication, so everybody's kind of on the same page, especially if more than one teacher is doing this. And measure student employment outcomes. Hey, we're graded on that anyway, with some of the WIO things. So why not use it to celebrate success stories at the same time? Important takeaways. Workforce prep must be embedded, not separated. Now, with that being said, it's okay to show them the skill before you embed it, but they shouldn't be just, okay, here's how to use a Zoom call and then just forget about it. It has to be something that here's how Zoom works. Now let's practice it. Let's use it next week. That's when it becomes embedded. Digital and soft skills are new employability foundation, as we mentioned before. Before it was showing up to work and maybe dressing appropriately. Now it's that plus those. We talked about the big six. There's actually another six behind it. Of what the employers really want these days. Industry alignment keeps adult education relevant, especially in our new world of IETs and articulations with community colleges and apprenticeship programs, short-term trainings, things of that nature. That whole world of CTE is changing and changing very, very fast. We got to keep up with that. And I think that's one thing that this will do. It'll help you stay relevant in that world. And of course, good partnerships just strengthen your program, period, and open students to opportunities. And yeah, business partnerships can look at anywhere from somebody giving you free chicken burgers to offering full-time jobs and apprenticeships and other opportunities for students. Don't dismiss any of them. But we definitely want to get more toward that one that we talked about there. There's opportunities for students. And if they come in to do mock interviews, that is a valuable thing that they're mentoring and working with our students. Definitely do that. Instructors can start small and scale over time. This is all these things I mentioned is something that I wouldn't expect anybody to be able to do in 2 days. It does take a little time and a little practice, but if you have a team of teachers working together, you can build this culture of the career with the academics. And at the end of the day, the students leave with more success at the college level, technical college level, apprenticeship, military, and on the workforce itself, maybe with some short-term trainings. It does all become part of that equation itself. And that's one thing that's missing. And a good story for me, I remember going down to a local employer and I started near enough crying when the employer said he went down to one of my places and he said they told him this was the best student they had, that he was really, really good on his technical skills. They ended up firing this guy in 3 days because he didn't show up to work and he started cussing out all the bosses and stuff. So I felt like, something I got to do better to make sure our students are performing, not only with the skills, but also how to get along with other people and how to be successful at the job because they do go hand in hand. So on that day forward, I made it my mission to make sure that we embedded these particular skills in with our academic skills. And we had to. We had to. We just had to. And real quick, and I'll check the old chat here real quick while we're doing that. What is one workforce preparation strategy that you can implement this week? You can put that in the chat. And by the way, hello from everybody from all over the United States. We got people here from Jacksonville, Go Duval, St. Johns County, Hollywood, Florida. We got folks here from New York. Got people in here from California, Missouri. Look at this. This is absolutely amazing. If Day is taking their world, taking the world by storm here today. But anyway, what is one skill does somebody want to put in here that they could use probably this week? And yes, by the way, the PowerPoint will be on the IPDay website here real soon. What is one skill somebody can use this week? Job interviewing. Thank you. We'll be practicing filling out digital forms. Great. Love it. And yeah, some of these things you can do pretty quick. I'll let that secret out. Producing new emails, professional emails, communication skills. Yeah, it starts small and you can big it up. And I would say put it all together in one spot. In fact, let me show you real quick. I've got a couple seconds here. The actual. Sorry for this, folks. I need to learn my digital skills when it comes to using Zoom. Here we go. Yeah, right here is the actual form. And this will be on the IPDAY website as well in the portal, the actual handout itself. I created stuff here with main concepts, the words, also interactive elements and lesson plans, which are real good that you can actually use. I know somebody talked about virtual interview practice, digital resume creation, and all kinds of stuff. And of course, it's no secret you can plug a lot of this stuff into ChatGPT and Perplexity as well, and it can give you some pretty good lessons as well. So, and I put on here too some other websites and references that you can go to find information in your local area, like the National Skills Coalition, for instance, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in Washington, LinkedIn Learning. There's all kinds of just valuable tools. In fact, there's some old school ones here too. I put in there like typing.com. I mean, we're going way back in the day on that one, but it does have good type practice type. In fact, I used it myself. Canva, all these particular things, and a lot of these tools are free. Have a free version, so definitely take advantage of that. So I just wanted to show you that real quick itself. So we'll stop the share and we'll get the old PowerPoint back up. Okay. And I definitely appreciate everyone's feedback there on that particular thing. But a quick summary overall, preparing adult learners for today's workforce, digital literacy skills and soft skills are the foundation of today's employment and tomorrow's. Embedding workforce skills into ABE, GED, and ESOL instruction strengthens real world readiness. Consistent routines and professional expectations build reliability, communications, and confidence. Digital skills and authentic documents help learners practice the skills employers expect. Employer partnerships create alignment between classroom instruction and industry needs. I consider that one the most important one. And instructors can start small, remember that, and build a focused classroom environment over time. In fact, if a couple teachers work together on it, you'll be amazed how quick that you actually work. When I say work in teams, teachers, that's where I learned my stuff, was from a lot of my mentors and some of my fellow colleagues themselves. So definitely take advantage of that itself. I want to thank you, and let's see if there's any other questions here real quick. Oh, here's a good one right here. um, do you have tips on mitigating student use of AI? I would recommend, talking to your own district about that, because that's could look different from place to place. That's what I would highly recommend, and that's one that's changing quite a bit. I know some districts are pretty wide open about AI, and some really, keep it pretty tight to them. So, but that's one I would definitely recommend there. That's for sure on that one. Okay, all right. With that being said, if you have any questions or any post webinar questions, you can always email me here at jarnott@floridaipday.org. I will go on there here today or tomorrow and answer any questions that you may have on that itself. Okay. And I believe we're at the end. Oh, and real quick, there is a survey here we want you to fill out. So take a few seconds on that. And I want to thank you for coming to this thing. I was real excited about it. I hope my excitement spilled over a little bit. And also, while you're doing that, remember next Wednesday there will be another IPDAY webinar. I really like this one. Music as a learning tool, evidence-based strategies for adult education. I assume that's going to be all kinds of good music. So that's what I highly feel. And I know the person putting that on, and I can tell you, great presenter. So definitely check that out next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope everyone has a wonderful day and happy holidays.